Yeah.
it.
What's up, Singapore? My name is Yee Jia and this is Gracia, and we are the proper Paupers. We are two crazy people living van life, living in a small 2 by 1 meter home. And all this started because I was watching YouTube all the time in Singapore while I was having an office job, and I was always watching people live in a van in YouTube. And I was always fascinated by this idea of living a nomadic life, and I would spend all my free time watching their videos. And Gracia, being a supportive partner that she is, she was always edging me on and nudging me on and saying like, "Hey, why don't you get your ass there and live that life yourself? Like, stop dreaming and stop spending your time living vicariously through these people." So somehow we had the opportunity to come here because like I had a grad school, study in the States, and we had an apartment, and that let us like the opportunity to figure things out and build a
Space
van,
ago.
and so from there begin our next chapter, right? That was now's our next chapter, chapter 1, building the van, which we can tell you more about it later.
Yeah.
So okay, uh I'm gonna ask like what like I know I've asked just now, but it got cut off, right? So why the airplane, like why not airplane and hotel or some or like backpacking, right? But do you why is it like a van life thing? Like why the van, like why that mode of look at that, the mode of traveling.
So I think that's a really good question, right? Because I think backpacking and just country hopping used to be my thing. I don't know if it's his thing, right? Before we started van life. Because I think we generally perceive travel as like more like with family, so or with friends. So it's very different from van life. But after we both decided to make the transition into van life, we found it to be like not only just like very economical, right? Because like your home is with you at all times, correct? But you're also able to have the freedom to go wherever you want to go and do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it, which is like really, really nice. And yeah.
So we also started off by watching all these people on YouTube, so we kind of knew
Had an
what we were
idea.
getting into
Yeah.
already. The fascinating thing about it is that firstly, you travel very cheap, right? Because you don't pay for hotels, and in America, hotels like really go for pricey. Like it's
Yeah.
150 US per night for a cheap place, so that it's like 200 over Sing, and you're going to spend it per night. And if you're going to do that for a year, that's a lot of money that you're going to be spending. Second thing that is very expensive in America is food, right? So
Yeah, because you always have to tip. So like there's like tax, right, for like whatever you ate, and on top of that, you have to tip because like waiters and waitresses are not well paid.
yeah, and so food here is expensive, right? So on average for a cheap meal, like cheap meal, talk about like fast food, right? $15 per person, like quite standard. Right? For a more decent meal, talk about 20-30 US dollars. So that's kind of restaurant prices in Singapore already. Can you imagine single meal you're paying a restaurant price, and every night you're booking to a hotel? And so for the economical reason, right, alone, it was a huge plus for us. We're saving on hotels. We live in a van, so we have a fridge to cook,
and stuff.
leftovers. Like, we used to have a microwave to heat up food. Everything like made it very, very cheap to travel. And so for us, that was the one way that we could see America best, right? And I really do think that we believe that there's no better way to see America than living in a van.
Yeah. So how long do you take to plan for all of this? Like how long do you start to go, like, okay, this is when we're going to start, right? And all the plans and stuff like that. Because I believe like you also put 3 weeks into building a van as well, right? Like so how?
Correct. Oh, thank you for watching our YouTube video before this. Yeah, we actually put a lot of planning to this. Although I think that Ija did most of it because he was like the original, like, babe, I really want to do van life. And he was like watching and binge watching YouTube. So he had a lot more information than me. So credits to him for like doing a lot of like the original framework of planning. So I just chimed in here and then. Also, like I think that I would say that like we were both super duper time pressed for it, and like we were rushing like just before Christmas, right?
Yeah. So that's chapter 1. So chapter one, like I came to the States for my grad school, and I still remember my apartment lease was on December 31st, and I would be homeless after December 31st. And because of like some logistical issues, she came to America to find me on December 11th or something. So we had about 3 weeks to buy a van, build a van, learn all the skills, and then come out of the home before like we were literally homeless. And it's not homeless in Singapore, it's like warm and whatever. It's here, it's like freezing and people
Yeah.
freeze to death out there. So we were like working 20 hours a day. We were like studying like crazy. It was a hell of an experience because I'm sure as a Singaporean, like we don't know how to build stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not taught, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't learn how to use a drill, cut wood, be handy. What's a screw? What's a bolt? And what's a nut? All these electrical wiring stuff that we have to learn as well. And planning, designing, like these are not skills of our Singaporean generation. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. Definitely not.
But
So there was a lot. Yeah.
okay, so because I work, so this is the 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 design part of my brain coming in because my dad is an engineer, so I come up from a family with a lot of metal fabrication kind of way, like yeah. So here's this thing, right? How do you envision, like did you have an envision plan of how your van will look like, right? And did you like, okay, look, this is what my van is going to, like I'm going to aim, like, okay, how close is your initial, or did you like, okay, let's YouTube the van and see how it goes from there?
I think it was probably like that. So it was like a collection of. So I think our van was a collection of a lot of ideas that we had online, like on Pinterest, on YouTube, right? On like whatever online websites that we had, and then with whatever information we had, we pieced together what we wanted our dream home on wheels would be. Like, for instance, I didn't want a van that was too big because in Singapore, like we mostly drive sedans and cars that are not very big.
Yeah.
So I was not confident with something that was very big. And I think for him, like he was just more concerned about mileage. So that was
Okay, so I'm gonna ask. Okay, this is a question. I think that it's I'm not so sure whether it's a good question to ask, but here's this one thing.
it's okay. Go
Do
ahead.
you envision yourself like, okay, this is going to be a permanent thing, or do you like, okay, look, I'm going to do it, like we have set a deadline and we'll see how it goes from there?
Sounds like our parents.
It's a,
I think that our parents listening to this will be so happy to hear that it's not a permanent thing and that there will be, to quote Yee Jia's dad, Papa Ui, a transition for sure into our next phase of life. But that will be another adventure and a mystery. So who knows? Maybe we'll come back and share it again.
yeah. So okay, I'm sorry that it sounds like a parent thing, right? Well, because
No
I myself
worries.
right now I'm driving Grab as well. So there are times where I just like, okay, look, where's my next step forward, right? And do I like plan like, okay, look, this is the time where my next stage of life will be, and that's the time where my next stage of life will be. So I kind of like envision seeing like when people take this kind of adventure, how like do they like how like what will the mindset will be, because I'm not really sure like how, like, yeah, does that make sense?
For sure.
I guess I don't think we ever really saw this as like a full-time career ever. Like not from our initial point where we were like, okay, we're gonna start this. This is gonna be our full-time career. This is gonna be our choice after finishing school and whatever. No, that was not our mindset at the start. But like the more we dove into it, I think there was some certain possibility that it could, right? Like this could become full-time jobs and whatever. But we're still trying to work things out. Let's put it, yeah.
Understand. All right, here's this thing, right? Because I'm gonna sound like an old fogey again, right? Like, but here's this question, right? I think the reason why people chose hotels and airplane, right? Airplane, hotel, right? And it's and the more permanent space, right? It's a little bit more about safety as well. And so why are like is there like this thought or what was the thought process about with this kind of stuff as well?
like regarding safety and whether or
Yes,
not it's
yeah,
safe to do
yeah.
van life, right? I would actually personally say after having done, because right now we are 40 out of 50 states in,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say that it is extremely, if not very safe most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
So I think there were like, for me personally, there was like one instance
yeah, just one.
that I felt unsafe in America.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking along the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, like any tourist would do that, right? Like if you're even if you're staying in a van or not, you walk along the streets of San Francisco. It's like
Yeah.
dirty and like there are like thugs around and whatever. So I don't think it's anything to do with van life. But
Yeah.
sleeping in a van at night, I feel very secure because your doors are all locked, and if anything, like they always tell you, if anything, you just like turn on your car and just drive away.
Oh
You
yeah,
walk the fence. Yeah.
yeah. Because it's like it's like a very big, it's a very weird concept to wrap around, like sleeping in a van, right?
Hmm.
And you have like you're sleeping in a van, you travel around in a van, right? And you're like it's there's no and there are also like the safety concerns you go through your head and keep thinking about it, like which is kind of like okay, sure, how do I go about doing it? How's the whole planning of like doing in and stuff like that, right? But what about the emotional side of things? Like are there? I suppose like you and the cultural difference, the when you're working out with your partner, right? Like is it easy to for the emotional side of things when it comes to planning when it comes to travel as well?
Actually, that is a very good question again. I would
Yeah.
say that van life isn't just like a physical thing where you're embarking physically on an adventure, but it's also like the whole emotional highs and lows as you're going along the journey. So I would say that definitely like we have met so many nice people in America who have been so kind to us because actually initially our van broke down quite a bit, right? And then when we were in a huge time of need, they were actually like mechanics helping us and like people offering us like a place to stay
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. But then after that, we also went on this other event called Rock Ride, whereby like we actually stayed with someone that we met on this event on a farm for like a week. Her
Oh.
name is Beth, and she's really like the sweetest soul. And she just hosted us for like a week, and we even met her grandchildren. It was just very sweet. But I guess like we also have our fair share of like bad experiences, right? Like where we got cheated. We actually got cheated on like Facebook Marketplace
Oh
and things
no.
like that. It happens, right, in
Uh,
America. And I mean, I think only very initially, but that was only one incident that we felt people were racist. Were when like we were in New Jersey and we were driving out of a parking lot, right? And there was this guy, he was like knocking on your car door, and he got so angry. He was wanted to go out, and I was like, please don't, please don't. Yeah, but I think being together has been very nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
we argue sometimes for sure, but like it's like there's no better way to know if someone is right for you, right? Unless like you spend like a lot of extensive time together, then you're able to see what's good,
mm-hmm.
what's good, or what's absolutely horrible, and
Mm-hmm.
then decide what you can like accept for the rest of your life. So
But
So
it's very different, right? Like you, for example, we stay in a van, right? And we like sometimes you have arguments, and you can't run away from each other.
yeah,
Like
you can't be like, give me some space. I need to like think about it. No, you have to settle it there and then and like make peace.
so
yeah.
what are the things that you do to uh to go through the whole like solving a problem, right, or solving a differences where you both of you don't agree with each other, like you say you can't run away, or you can't like, hey look, I'm going to take a walk right now, right? So what are the ways to what are the methods that you guys have you guys and girls have thought through and settle it and stuff like that?
I think there's like a lot of compromise between like the both of us, right? So that's just like any relationship, right? I don't think there's anything different about us living in a van.
Yeah, and also I think it's really important to like hug it out and know that even though like I'm not winning this argument, right? I still really love the other person, and to always remind yourself how much you both have given up for this trip of your lifetime, because we both have sacrificed a lot, right? Like, he has sacrificed his corporate career, sacrificed like my job in academia. So we both like did a lot of like sacrificing on our parts to make this trip work out. So it's like you didn't just want to flush it down the drain, right? With like getting mad.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I can see that.
yeah, so that's that.
So I suppose like you know each other's takes and like you because I'm still thinking about like the whole idea of traveling, right? And travel, when people think about travel, they think about the pretty landscape that everyone will be in, right? Is the it's the Instagram post that you see, but a lot of people don't understand when you travel, right? There'll be like long instances of nothing, right? Like just long instances of like not
That is true.
not doing anything, right? So what do you guys do then? Like to either keep them occupied or not going, or like the whole existential crisis doing the whole van traveling and stuff like that.
I mean, like, I don't know. I don't really know what you're referring to, but maybe like as we drive from state to state, yeah, there are some periods of like, just us sitting in the car and she'll be working on Instagram or like editing some videos to post on YouTube or TikTok and stuff like that. But we don't really sit down at a place and just chill out very often. Always on the move and on the go, because we also have a deadline and timeline to finish this journey of ours, right? And we don't want to like just sit in one spot.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. But I think that also to address the idea of like what it's like, right, whenever there are like long periods, because like van life isn't just like about a roller coaster, right? Isn't always about the highs. It's also about like sometimes the trip gets boring, right? And it does. Like, you're driving past, and in fact, 97% of America is rural. Only 3% are cities. So we actually googled this trivia together while driving in the car, and realize that like actually there's a lot of like nothingness in America, but when there's nothingness, I guess it's up to yourself, right, to make meaning out of it. Because I mean, look at the landscape, like, oh my god, this is the same thing that I've been seeing for 3 hours. We're driving in North Dakota, like, oh, this is the same thing. And you just like, I guess you just like chat, talk about future plans, and also like just enjoy the moment, man. Cliche as it sounds, right? So
What's the good word? I do not know how to put it this way, because because when you're working, right, like when you're a full-time job, like you just got, okay, look, like this is the thing, right? It's always the next day, right? But by having like a long trip to oneself, like it's everyone's romantic idea, right? like the idea of traveling is just romantic, right? It's just the whole idea of romantic, right? Like so right now I'm just trying to wrap my head, like my whole rat race head into that traveling itself, and just go, oh, what is the just wrap it up, like what will keep me move forward in going into that path? Does that make sense?
I guess it's more of like, are you asking like what would prevent you from going such an unconventional path, or like what
more like
made us an unconventional path?
Will take you more like to go to the unconventional path and stick to those unconventional path then. Do like
I see. What would motivate us, right, to stick onto the unconventional path is that.
Yes.
So we actually wrote about this a little bit in like our personal journals about the Singaporean dream, right? I think everything starts with the Singaporean dream because we're Singaporeans, and the Singaporean dream is the 5 C's, right? Car, condo, cash, credit card, and country club. And saying no, right, to the rat race life, and saying no to like the stable, well-paying jobs life also means that sometimes the 5 C's, and in fact, oftentimes, right, it will be out of reach for us because you're just not able to afford it when you're not having a stable monthly income. But we decided to say bye to that life quite permanently, even though, of course, occasionally we can be tempted because we're just human, right?
Yeah.
But because there's always so much. We thought that there's so much more benefits, so many more benefits than costs to like being out of the rat race and just being able to have the freedom to do the things that you want. So yeah, we are redefining the Singaporean dream.
That's nice. That's nice. Oh,
Yeah.
so here's this one thing that I'm just curious. Right? Have you? I suppose like you. What's the most beautiful place? People will often will usually say that it's Los Angeles, right? It's not, it's Nevada, right? It's Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or Manhattan, right? It's the pretty place, right? Where would you, if you have to bring someone to your to the state, right? Where would you bring that person to, and why?
I guess we should both answer this question.
Now, I think Yee Jia should go first because
Yeah.
I think that he has quite an interesting answer. In fact,
So far we've done like 40 states. And we always like to ask people in America this question, right? As Americans, what is your favorite state? Like if you meet someone randomly, you ask them, "Oh, which is your favorite state?" And a lot of them would say places like Colorado, Utah, stuff on the West Coast. And it's very understandably why. It's like very pretty landscapes, very like beautiful and whatever not. And so, cliche as it sounds, I think the most beautiful place for me personally is Colorado, or maybe Oregon. The Oregon coast. This is a very beautiful landscape. But if you like somewhere like a little bit more, less basic, foreign term, right? Less basic, right? So, like places like South Carolina is really, really nice. Like it's a nice, hidden gem that only really Americans would go there, right? No Singaporean will ever tell you, hey, Gary, I'm flying down, right, to like the US, South Carolina. No one says that. But it's actually really, really nice as well. Like America is really beautiful and diverse itself.
truly, truly it is. I think I would definitely agree with you, right, on the counts of like, because actually recently his parents visited and actually joined us for van life, and we decided to them and check out Utah and Colorado with them. Like, we heard from everybody, most people that we've met, that it's one of the most beautiful states. Personally, I think that it was really a great experience, and it was beautiful, right? But if I had to recommend someone who wants the not so like typical like New York, California, and Vegas, Las Vegas experience, I would say I would actually recommend them to go definitely by the Oregon coast for sure, and then to Montana, because some aspects of Montana, it's like you feel like you're transported to Norway, Iceland, and the Swiss Alps all at once. And if you really like want that kind of like scenic beauty, rugged landscapes, and like crazy hikes, definitely go there, and then like head to a secret hot spring afterwards and get a hot drink.
So curious. So okay, I'm just curious, right? Have you like I've watched? I'm a huge fan of like TV shows from the States that comes from the Midwest, right? Like I watch a lot of Supernatural, right? Don't judge me. So
No, not at all.
So here's this thing, right? So here's this thing. Does it is it as true as what they kind of like depicted in the TV itself, like the way of how a rural U.S. state will be like, where maybe it's like a town of like maybe 500 people or 300 people, where people know each other. Are there any
Yes.
memories?
100% yes. It is as rural as it gets, for sure. We haven't been in a town where there's less than what?
There's only
20
8 people.
houses?
I remember there was this town that we've been through. It was like 8 people.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I'm just curious. Can you just paint a picture, like how like what is it like there, right? And what did you do there? How long did you stay, and stuff like that?
Okay, so to paint a picture for you guys, well, nothing is as good as checking our YouTube channel, so you should totally check our YouTube channel first. But if I were to paint it, so me and Gracia has cycled around a lot of Singapore, right? So best comparison would be the Chua Chu Kang graveyards, that area, like really big and vast. Then big like highway which turns into the airport, like that kind of big setting. You don't see anything, no graveyard and whatnot, and then you see like a tiny hut there, and then like there's like a tiny barn. That's the picture. Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
lush green because it's farms, right? So there's crops and stuff. Sometimes it's arid, right? Like a sandy, and there's nothing there yet. But that would be the picture I would paint.
Yeah. And just a lot driving with very little human contact.
What happened if you ran out of gas? What's this
That
thing?
is. See, that's a good one because like we were initially gonna keep like a small, like I think like about 500 ml. Come using ml here,
Yeah.
but anyways, of like spare gas in our van. But then we were afraid that like if anything happened, it will blow up and it will kind of like worsen the situation. So we decided not to. So whenever we get like we get around like about, because they use miles here in America, so we get to about like I think 80 miles on the odometer, we start like finding a gas station. But if
Yeah.
we're in a rural area when we're 150 miles, which is just half tank,
Uh-huh.
right? We'll like go and start searching for gas stations already and just like go and pump no matter how expensive it is.
But I think what we've learned along this trip, right, is that if you're in a rural town and you knock on someone's door and like you say like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah, for sure.
I need some gas. Can you help me out? Like they would
Yeah.
definitely help you.
Yeah, they're so kind.
And a lot of times these people also like they tapao gas at their house.
Uh-huh.
So they have this whole like drain, like a gas canister, like a big
Yeah,
barrel.
so
I wouldn't be that worried if we got stranded, but if we really did, I mean, worst came to worst, we both have bikes and we will suffer.
I go to the gas station and buy some gas and then bike
Yeah.
back, I guess. Bike back on a tandem. Oh jeez.
Oh, because I'm thinking about like the planning, the logistics side of things as well. So it's like wow, like the whole idea of like traveling around and just looking for gas is the closest thing I can get is the Malaysian highway, right? Which I think is not comparable, because it's like a lot bigger as well, right? And things like that. So it's just like, okay, so what happens if there's no enough gas, right? And you're like, and you want to store as much gas as possible. I remember like there's this. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure whether you watch a lot of car shows. Like there's this thing. There's this show, Top Gear, I think, where they got like a direct like a. Oh yeah. Okay, so
That it's a boy show, I think. Yee Jia watches that.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So here's this. I'm not so sure whether you remember this part of Top Gear where you have like the longest highway, the longest and straightest highway in the US. Like have you guys went there? Like it's I think it's 99 Highway 99, I think.
Is it?
Probably, yeah. We probably drove on, I-99.
It's just like it's just nothing but by just one whole straight line, right?
It happens. That's pretty common here.
Yeah, that is. But
Yeah.
like, honestly, Yee Jia does most of the driving, and sometimes I would say that even though the road looks damn straight, it's not. It's very bumpy and can be a bit rocky, especially if you're in a rural area, because like sediment just gets blown onto the road. So most people in America here actually drive trucks,
Oh yeah.
and all-wheel drives or all-wheel drives.
Uh-huh.
So like I would say it's an essential thing to own a car, but it's probably even more necessary to own like a four-wheel or all-wheel drive, I would say, for the road conditions.
Oh yeah. No wonder the show gets very popular in the States. Here is this one thing, right? I'm gonna ask a little bit on the financial side of things as well. So I'm just really curious. Okay, look, because the whole idea, it sounds like a big project to me, right? So like how much do you plan for? Do you guys like plan like, okay, look, right now I'm not gonna have any income, and what I'm gonna do, and how much do I save and stuff like that? Or
Yeah,
how
so-
much research do you do to go through that thing itself?
Yeah, so it's really funny, right? Back to chapter 1, right? So chapter 1 was like building the van. But even though we spent 3 weeks building the van, I spent like half my time in grad school learning how to build a van. If not, there's no way you could build a van in 3 weeks because there's so much knowledge that you have to learn. So like, I spent a lot of time like studying like electrical charts and whatever, and planning how this trip will be prior to actually starting picking up my first school. So back to the financial picture, right? Like I said, the two biggest expenses that we were worried about was hotels and food. So one thing that we could settle was hotels and food. So we made sure there was a comfortable bed, make sure that we wouldn't die in the bed, the safe, right? And second thing was food, having somewhere to cook. So for the bed in our van, it's very well insulated. So like there's like layers of insulation, so it doesn't get very cold. For example, like outside can be like negative 20 degrees. It's really freezing cold, but we will be inside and pretty warm and that. So it's really like we won't die, and there's like carbon monoxide detectors inside, so that, like we actually are pretty safe, and we don't need hotels, right? And sometimes even sleeping in our own bed is more comfortable than going to a hotel. Honestly, like those cheap, crappy, like, right, it's actually more comfortable. And secondly, like for food, we really made sure that there was like a fridge and a freezer, right? So that would save us a lot of money if we did that ourselves. So she likes ice cream, so we have like this big freezer for her to
Love
keep ice cream.
it.
But we have like stuff to keep, like food, leftovers, and whatever. So we don't really eat out much, and if not, we only eat out like 2-3 times per state. And so our total budget, which we planned, but obviously hasn't really been going the best for us, right? Because of some problems that we've had along the way. Our budget is $1,000 per month between each of us. So that's like $12,000 for the entire trip. And honestly, like some people can spend that amount going to like Korea, Japan for a holiday.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But we are doing that for a year, right? It's just the kind of lifestyle that you want to live as well.
Yeah, but I think that this is the point where if you're asking about the financial aspect of things, I think it's very important for us to give credit for every single person who has supported us along the way. So
Right.
we've actually met like a lot of kind Americans, right? Like I remember once when we had a really crappy day at a mechanics because we just found out another problem with our van. This guy just came up to us, paid for our mechanics bill, right, and gave us money. And he gave us about like $400, and we were like, "What?" Like we didn't even know him. He just drove by. I think that these like kind people are really like worth mentioning. And we also have like a really like loyal and strong supporter on Buy Me a Coffee. And we actually recently met him in San Francisco, and he like asked like stay in like
Yeah.
and he even gave us like a GoPro. Like he's really really kind. This guy called Wiko, and we are just like really grateful to like people like this we meet along the way who like say, hey, you guys are like just like two young people on the road. Like I really want to help out. Like it's just so refreshing to like hear people say that. And other than from like back home, they're like, hey, when you coming back to reality? Ask kind of questions. And I'm just like, what if we're just trying hard to make it our reality? We're still trying to hustle, that kind of thing. It doesn't really like go well with like the nice, stable life most Singaporeans like. So that, yeah.
You talk about family and friends back in Singapore asking you this question. So I suppose like have they accepted your the life that you're living right now, like a van life thing? Or are they just, oh my god, are they still doing it again? Like how long are they gonna stay, right? And why does they do that and stuff like that? Like have they accepted that, or are they still in that mentality itself?
I don't know, like I would think that to any Singaporean, not just our family and friends, right? Like they'll be like, oh my god, these guys are nuts. Like not just are they like they have like an education, right? They are also doing something super unconventional. Like
Are they
And-
wasting the education away? Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of times a common narrative, right? So
Right.
far, like, you guys should be doing something more with your lives. I feel like the Singaporean idea is always something more can be done. Something
yeah.
more can be done. But in our like argument is always we're already doing plenty. We're already doing more. But it's just more in a different like definition, right? In a different aspect. Yeah, but I think that initially we definitely met with some resistance, right, from our family because they were like, but I think eventually they're all very supportive of us, and I think that, and I hope that they might even try the van life.
But here's this thing about but is it? I suppose it's harder to keep in touch with your family and friends along the way as well. right? How much other than your immediate family? Like, are you like? Is it very difficult to keep in touch with friends who are just wondering like what are you doing and stuff like that?
I think not really, actually. It's very easy to keep in contact with someone as long as you just want to chat with them and you want to see them. Cliche as it sounds, I don't think distance matters at all because right now, as we're having this call, we're actually having this call at his best friend's house. And this is his best friend from secondary school, mind you. So, I mean, I would say that, like, it's very, in fact, I would say that distance makes the heart fonder. So, it's easier to actually have someone or chat with someone because you just have so many more things to share from like someone and your friend back home. And yeah, I think that we haven't had much problem at all. In fact, I mean, there's like Zoom, there's like Telegram, WhatsApp, things like that. It's easy. Yeah, not too hard. Yeah. It's easy if you try, like from the Beatles song. Yeah.
Here's this thing, right? I think it's going to sound very. It's not a bad question. Like, but w- will you be able to go back to open air quotes reality as quoted from what other would say, like going back to corporate life, going back to like and while missing the van life once in a while, each kind of thing.
I don't know, like for us, I don't know if
Going back
I
to a
think
corporate life is or going back to like a reality by your friends. Like, is it
like
possible?
there's one side of it is like, oh, would the employer like want us? And then the other side is like, do we want to, right? So like depends on which side you're talking about. Of course we can't answer from the employer side, right? But like from our perspective, like um I don't think that is a dream of ours, right? It's not something that we are dreaming of, like, oh wow, I would love to go back and work in like a 12-hour job, and sitting at my charts
Yeah.
and doing presentations. No, that's not something that we dream of. But like if push comes to shove, I think like we will have to do it.
Yeah. But I guess like right now, while we're still like in the process of like pursuing like the travel dream, right? I would like to say that it's not over until the fat lady sings, and you don't really know what's gonna happen until the very end. And whether or not like we miss or rather I miss, right? That whole like idea of a stable job, right? And a monthly income and a paycheck that comes in. Well, definitely, yes, I
Yeah.
do. But what would I miss more? Like being on the road and having an adventure, at least like for like about 2, 3 years, because I think we will get tired for sure. And when we do get tired, I definitely think that it's not so much of whether or not we will be able to like go back into like a normal job or whatnot,
Yeah.
but it's more of that we'll probably really want to. But we'll just like, head back anyways. A lot about like how you feel about it and how you see the trajectory of like your lives, I guess. And that's how we view it, I would say. Yeah.
What is the last or where would you think the last place would be?
The last state or like
Yeah,
the last
the
country
last
or the
place, the
last
last. Because I would imagine like what is it like to 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 go. Okay, this is gonna last place to be, and we'll see what we do when we get there. Uh, and I think I have one of my own. So where would you be, right? Thinking, where do you know if there's a last place that you guys will go? Okay, look, this is this is it. Why not plan on and do something else and do everything together, right? Like, where would you imagine your last place to be?
I guess for us then destination like Z should be Singapore. I think so, right, honey?
I think that Singapore will definitely be like the end point,
Yeah,
right?
the
Because
final
for
chapter.
us, like Dorothy says in The Wizard of Oz when she clings her two red feet, right? There's really no place like home, right? No place like where you've grown up, no place like where your friends and family are, no place like where the people you love are will be. But I would like to say that at least I would hope that the last place is somewhere extremely, extremely memorable and fitting to be the last place. So actually we were both thinking of like heading to India at some point
Uh-huh.
and having like a blast there and just like checking out the culture and things. But I think it will probably be somewhere in Asia as our last place. I think, yeah. So hope
Okay.
that answers.
Your last place is in this chapter of in this adventure itself on of
Oh,
This-
this
yes,
adventure.
yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
so the last place will be, I think, Alabama or
Probably
like
Alabama.
Alabama. Then after that, we'll drive up to New York where we started. I think, yeah.
Which
So yeah, Alabama.
it's have you seen which part of Alabama that you would like to go to? Like I'm just curious about
No.
people going to
Sorry, we
How
plan on
much?
the go.
how much research do you do like a state itself and just go okay like this is where or do like and stuff like that?
We probably start planning like 2 minutes before we reach the state.
Yeah, like because it's just like you're on the road and you're just like
Yeah.
so essentially like right now like on our Google Maps, right? Because we were just showing friends yesterday that like it's just full of like pins of like one to go, one to go, one to go, one to go across the whole like American continent.
Uh-huh.
So it's like crazy how like we spent a year, but we've only been to one country.
I can imagine like the whole travel around but because I got friends who stay in the US, right? And there are times where I just talk to this friend, right? Like we like he does comedy. So I asked, hey, if I were to do like a US thing, right, from East Coast, from the West Coast to the East Coast, right? And then start doing the mics there, right? Like doing the shows there from I think from LA to New York, right? He says plan for at least a month or two to just
To just drive from one side to the other.
yeah just to one side for another. But we will stop like a couple of hours and then just like hey. Let's stay one night here, stay one night there, and then stay a night there. It's like a month or two. Like wow, like the whole idea of like planning like the whole thing. It seems a lot.
No, I think probably right. It's probably he's not incorrect. I think it'll probably take a month or two if you took your time slowly. I mean, if to drive straight through it, maybe like 2-3 days of continuous just piling on driving. But I don't think you want that, right? You want to stop along the way, see stuff, chat. So one thing that a lot of people like to do, like I mean, now that we've been in America for a while, we've like joined a lot of cycling events.
Uh-huh.
And a very common cycle is cycling from the East Coast to the West Coast or West Coast to East Coast. And if you cycle, it's probably about 90 days, like just cycling and like seeing stuff. So that's like 3 months. So driving should be like much less. Yeah.
Have you been to? Okay, so where's the most memorable place or the most cherished memory that you have while traveling then?
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one.
I think for me, like a really special place for me would be like either Iowa or Massachusetts. I really enjoyed my time in both places, both in very different ways. Like in Iowa, we went for this event called Rock Ride,
Uh-huh.
and I hate to say that, like, you can watch our YouTube video,
Oh,
like
yeah.
this, like 2-part YouTube video on it. Basically, it's like this event where you cycle across the entire state. So, like, basically, the whole state, right? From the distance is from like Singapore to Penang,
Uh-huh.
right? And everyone along the way, right, like comes out of their house to like wave at you and like they join you along for the ride and stuff like that. So it's like a crazy ride. Imagine cycling from Singapore to Penang, and like everyone is outside their house and like partying. And so like
and just like inviting you in, very welcoming, and they even have like things like steak and like corn out there. Like one family, they have a pool out there, like you can just jump in and like go. It's really nice.
I want to ask, have you joined like a barbecue thing, like with the families that the stayed with as well, like I would imagine like a lawn, like in the lawn thing where I would sit in like a
I think somehow it's been a bit cold for us, so we haven't had like a chance to like go for that because we have been like because we started our van life in winter, so we were trying to desperately escape the cold and drive all the way down to like Florida where it would be warmer. So it was kind of like we didn't really manage to catch, in a sense, catch the right temperature for a barbecue in that Sounds about right.
But a lot of people have hosted us very, very, very
Yeah,
welcomingly.
very, very welcomingly. Like even so we were talking about rock, right? And on that count, like we actually stayed right with my friend Betty on a farm. And we also met another couple from Wisconsin who actually used to live in Singapore.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
conversation literally started like this. You were like, hey, you guys Singaporean? Oh my god. I miss Singapore, man. I miss the maid because they have two kids. They were like, I miss it so much. And then
Domestic helper.
yeah, the domestic helper. And like we were like, oh my goodness, and we just laughed so hard, we chatted, we really hit it off. So after rock ride, we actually stayed with them in their little cabin in the woods. And it was really, really nice that they actually hosted us. And we even got to experience the Wisconsin experience of going to a supper club because they took us there on their pontoon boat.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's really nice. We got to hang out with their kids in the dark and chat with them, reminisce a bit more, and watch TV. That was really, really nice. I think. Yeah.
That sounds very that sounds really pretty. Like in a sense that where you just try to when you describe the whole thing itself. Here is this. Then I wanna ask is how do you plan? Maybe how do I phrase this question? If out of this trip, right, you get to learn a thing, right? In anything that that will be applicable to life. What's the lesson learned then? Or
I think
a good takeaway that you can tell to your friends, like how do I like what's a good takeaway then?
I think for me it's like problem solving. Because like a lot of I don't know if that's an okay answer, but problem solving is like it happens a lot, right? Like for example, like chapter 1, we built a van, right? And there's so many problems that come out of the van during building the process, right? Like you have to not only learn a lot of things that are outside of the conventional thing. Like you have to learn how to wire electrical panels. You have to learn how to wire like electricity, batteries. Like it's like you have a problem, but you have to solve it. Even on the road, right? That's chapter 2. Like being on the road, like things break down, things fall apart, and even if you were to Google, like there isn't really an answer out there for you. Like you have to use your creativity and like your innovativeness to come out with a solution that would fit your specific fan and your specific needs. And so I feel like problem solving is a skill that I mean you have to have along this. You can't rely on other people because it's your home and your house and you are on the road and no one's gonna care about it more than you. Yeah.
What about Gracia? Like what's your biggest takeaway then?
I think my biggest takeaway is probably I want to say like it's also troubleshooting, but I think that it's more so much of being able to spend 24/7 completely with another person. Because I think that prior to living van life, right, we were both very independent people, both like doing our own thing, very like pursuing our own careers, that kind of people. And being able to spend 24/7 together and all the time sometimes isn't the easiest. So I think it's not just learning how to compromise, but it's learning how to compromise happily. I think that's very important because most people can compromise, but they feel very bitter about it. They complain to their friends and they're like, he did this to me, he did that to me, or she did this to me, she did that to me. I think that the whole point is because you didn't compromise happily, you compromise unwillingly, right? For the sake of false truths. So I would say it would be probably to compromise happily is what I learned on this trip. Yeah.
So are there times where you just go like, okay, like we need to but because you say compromise, right? Like but at the process of when you see a problem to deal with a problem, and reach the compromise part, right? Like do you guys like okay look I need like do you guys like take yourself out from that situation and maybe like deal with a problem that you didn't see coming and maybe like one person has this method of thinking of thought process of doing things and maybe the other person has the way of like doing things and you go, oh my god, dude, I'm right, no oh my god, I'm right again, like like the whole like I'm okay I'm a very independent person. That's why I'm like there's a lot of times where I travel with my friends, right? Or that when I right now I've stopped traveling with my friends, right? Because I prefer solo traveling because it's so much easier, right? Where there's little argument. So I'm gonna imagine like two-person traveling on as much as like compromise, and I suppose like that there are times I just go, okay, look, I got to take myself out of that situation for a while, and just yeah.
Like, okay, so let's give you one like example, right? And that is our table in the van. I don't know if you see have you seen it, right? But we have a table in the van.
A flip down table.
Basically, it's designed very much like the airplane table. If
Uh-huh.
everyone can imagine, it's like we have this table that flips down, and we had to design this. And this table was a huge point of contention between Risha and I, because this table is not only where we will eat, we also cook there, right? So cook, you have a live fire on this table, and Gracia has this concern that this table will fall, right? When we built it, she didn't want to have the table, but like I insisted, and in the end she compromised.
Because we don't have a skeleton inside our van. Skeleton means we don't have any wooden backing.
Yeah.
So we're literally drilling this up onto plywood.
Yeah. So she was always very scared. And like one thing that we, it happens sometimes in every
Yeah.
relationship, right? It's like, oh, you do one thing, then I do one thing, but I have one opinion, you have one opinion, I
Yeah.
compromise. And then later on, problem come, then I told you so, right?
No,
Like,
but eventually,
this is like,
so the
you know-
funny thing is that the table held up really well, and
Yeah.
even I was like, "Oh wow, babe, that was a really good table." And then like, we were like, "Oh, this is so good." And then the table fell and crashed, fell like twice on us, and it was just a few weeks before his parents came, so like, it was like quite like a fiasco, I
Yeah.
think. But then we managed to like fix it
Yeah.
up again, and it's stable again now.
Yeah,
So
I guess the point is like, it's not like it's very hard. You have to like control your emotions, not say like, I told you so, and
yeah, you have to
I knew this was
control.
coming,
Yeah.
and like you have to like control yourself and like,
Yeah.
you know what? Let's fix the problem. This is the problem that we have. It's not about whether who's right or wrong. Like we
Yeah.
both agreed to this decision to put
Yeah.
the table up, right? Now we have a problem, even though we had different opinions. There's just all this
Yeah.
and like
Happy
be very
compromise.
peaceful and like focus on the issue rather than each other.
Yeah, that's probably good advice, I think, to happily compromise.
Happy compromise.
Because I think actually, you only want to happily compromise if it's worth it, right? Because as humans, right, we're all motivated by self-interest, whether or not we want to admit it or not. And like, if you really think that it's worth it, the other person is worth it to compromise, you will, and you will do it happily. So I guess that's just my thought process and all of this. Yeah.
I am just okay. So, I'm going back to before this trip. Then, I would like to know more about both of you. Then, like, oh yeah, of course. I think it's good to know both of you. Then, like where do you come from? Then, like maybe that's not a good question to ask. Like what kind of But I'm just interested about like what kind of like dynamic of family that that both of you come from. Are you guys are both of you coming from a very similar family and stuff like that, so that no, like to because I would like to understand to understand both of you and see like okay if I and stuff like that.
I mean, okay, I guess I can start. Like, I think we come from vastly different, very different families. Like, and I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it as that. But I guess for me personally, I went to like a normal boys' school in Singapore, typical ACS boy, had like typical ACS boys choice. I think I would say I'm the epitome of like ACS jock, right? Like someone who's like play sports, like DSA, and like they do great school. I mean, later on changed, and then that's me. But Aisha,
Actually, I really dislike that Yee Jia calls himself a jock, because jocks are like dumb, right? And like they don't listen to podcasts, right? They don't have cogent discussions with you, right? On like the politics of the world. So I think that is also a side of himself that he doesn't really depict. I mean, at least like in the later years. I mean, because I only got to know him, right, in his like in his like mid-20s. I never really got to saw like the early part of him. But I mean, as per what he tells me, he used to be like very like, you know, like, I guess he's like, a lot different now. But yeah, as for like my family, I would say that we're definitely like a lot more conservative and also Christian, right? So I think that also like kind of like shapes and molds the idea of what a family should be. I went to like a SEP school, primary school, then after that went to a girls' school, then JC, and then like of course university as it is. But I think that vastly different families, it's probably right, given that I think that my family is a bit like kind of like a lot more like artsy, I guess you can say. Listen to like jazz and like I guess like do like things that are a little more different from like his family.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately one thing that we definitely have in common is supportive parents who love us very, very much and who will really like stick up and stand up like for us and no matter what we do, no matter where we are. So I think for that I'll always be very grateful.
I want to ask the last question then. Who choose the music when the car is driving then? Like, are you going to listen to a podcast?
Me, I choose
Yeah.
the music. Yeah, I really like really like music. So I choose the music. I think he's not a very big music person. So this is
not.
when he heavily compromises and I get to play my music. About 70% of the time, 30% he chooses lah. I mean, when he has something that he wants to listen to. So yeah.
All right. I guess I've done all the questions. I've went through all the questions.
Yay!
All right. Okay. Is there anything you want to is there any questions or is there anything you want to ask or is there anything you want to shout out?
Just want to thank you, I guess, for having us on this podcast. We had a lot of fun being on your show. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, like it's so late for you right now, and like here you are, like hanging out with us. Thank you for that.
And I
Hey,
think like we also want to share the message with Singaporeans, right? That like you don't work super hard 350 days a year to have like a 14-day leave and go overseas for like 14 days.
oh yeah.
Right? Like you can do this lifestyle, and that's why we're trying to show people like live on $1,000 per month. Like this is available to anybody, right? Like literally to come to the US, you definitely have to work a little bit first and like earn a bit of money and have a little bit of money to start. But this is not like a luxurious dream for people, right? Like the two of us, I think in this trip, we could probably work on like we could probably say we spend maybe like $7,000 per person in total because like after we build the van and we sell the van, we do get some profits from it as well.
Assume talent. But yeah, I think that probably it's also maybe like a nice maybe reminder and hopefully we can succeed because it would be so nice if someone is just able to say goodbye to like stability because it's true that we are all born free but are everywhere in chains, right? In the sense that you're always bound and tied down to commitment. There's always something that demands or begs your attention. But your youth and your time will never come back to you, right? That's not something that you can ever have, even if you have a ton of money. So like, I guess I hope that maybe like more Singaporeans can like take the road less travel and hopefully, who knows, we might see them in their van in the next few coming years.
But here's this one thing, right? Like maybe here's this one question that comes into my head. I think I want to ask, right? Like, what is a good law or how should I say? How do you manage to make the decision to go? Okay, look, these are the sacrifices I'm going to make, right? Because from the process of like it's dropping everything, right? I suppose it's in the 2 years itself. It's in the 1 year itself, right? Even before that, you just go, okay, look, I'm gonna drop everything. I'm gonna clean up all my, or I'm not gonna see my family for a year unless they fly over. Like there's like I'm gonna give up a lot of things, right? So the sacrifice.
I guess for me it was a very difficult choice because like I would say for a long time I was always striving very hard for like this corporate career, and like I think like the right person just came along, right opportunities came along,
Aww.
and there was just no better time for the two of us. And I think this is a decision that we are both very happy that we made together. Despite sacrifices that may or may not come along the way.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's the end of the podcast. That's the end of recording. We can talk after that as well. Yeah. Thank you for doing this again.
Thanks again for
Thanks,
having
guys.
us.
Like and subscribe.